Here's what I'm not going to do.
Let's name your brothers in order of which one was more likely to do this.
Let's don't do that. I'll have my mother mad at me. They're all equally
gay. Oh, those boys would do that.
Shoo-wee. Now I'm picturing Boo in a dress.
Poking out your mind's eye. His no.
Beard. Hey friends, my name is Tanner Cartwright. This is Jerry Doris. We're here in the Hall of Fire for Snake on the Table. What's our snake, brother?
This is a question we got in a couple weeks ago. I've been sitting here with a number of others, but I'm not sure how I'll summarize this, but let me just read this whole thing. Well, what would you do if one of your non-Christian siblings decided to become transgender? So they're dressing like the opposite gender and asking to be called a different name with different pronouns. Yeah, so maybe the question is, what do I do if one of my brothers or sisters is transgender? Yeah. And now there's a follow-up here. What safeguards and boundaries would you set up to protect your children from this? And how would you do it while still showing a Christ-like love for your sibling despite their sinful lifestyle?
Yeah, well, that's the impetus for the question, right? It's like they're affecting your family.
Yeah.
It has an effect. It's like all of a sudden you're going to a family event. Your brother's going to be dressed like a woman, and your children are they're seeing that. So,
obviously, you've got a priority around. Yeah, this is a mess.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things. I'd say, first of all, you dead name them.
Have all your children dead name them.
Yeah.
That's going to happen.
Bluntly,
Uncle Bob. Why are you wanting me to call you Uncle Bobby?
Yeah, 100%. Bluntly, if one of my brothers did this, then I would, here's what I'm not going to do.
Let's name your brothers in order of which one was more likely to do this.
Let's don't do that. I'll have my mother mad at me. They're all equally
gay. Oh, those boys would do that.
Shoo-wee. Now I'm picturing Boo in a dress.
Poking out your mind's eye. His no.
Beard. So the issue is you have to think through what you cannot do. In my mind, so instantly my mind goes to what you cannot do is affirm them in their insanity, affirm them in their wickedness.
Yeah.
So in the same way that if I had a brother, living with a woman, saying, well, we're married or we're in a civil union or whatever, I want you to act like this is my wife.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it.
You're not going to participate in that lie.
No.
You just cannot.
It's unacceptable for Christians to participate in lies.
Yeah. So I think you're right. What I cannot do, I cannot compromise my own positions. Yep. I'm not going to, just because you feel this way, I'm not going to change reality because biologically you're still the gender that you were. And even you cannot change that. So I'm not going to do that, nor am I going to participate in a lie. I'm not going to use your pronouns.
Yeah.
And if that makes you uncomfortable and that makes you want to withdraw from me, you can go for that. Nor am I going to instruct my children to participate in this lie. And so you may find yourself confronted by my own kids because they're young and they don't know why you're acting the way you're acting.
You may find yourself where you will not be seeing my children.
Right. So you can see family scenarios where this person is coming around. Now, if dad and mom are trying to affirm this lie and other people affirm this lie, then I'm out. I'm done. I'm sorry. You're willing to do that and compromise what the scriptures say and do this kind of stuff, I can't participate in those things. Now, does that mean you've lost access to me and we can never talk? Absolutely not. My door is open. My phone, we can talk about these things. But I'm not going to put my children around you.
Yeah.
No,
it's hard for me to put myself in this situation thinking about my family, because if this happened,
they would beat him to death.
Well, sure, but they would never come around like to our house, like to a family gathering, and someone like it's not conscionable. Like we could not conceive of that.
Yeah, I agree.
So in this scenario, if you've got someone and he's coming and he's wearing lipstick and all this stuff, and he's there's a spectrum. It's like if your brother is acting very effeminate and kind of where he's going, but he's not doing it on, like, he's not showing up and it's on it. If he's showing up to a family event in a dress, like whole hog, cross-dressing, transgender, I'm cutting body parts off, that whole thing, then I wouldn't be going. I wouldn't participate. I wouldn't go. I wouldn't put my children in that situation. Now, if he's being very effeminate, it's a slightly different scenario. I think you pull him aside and talk to him, and I might have my kids there, and my children would be asking him, why are you wearing lipstick, or why are you wearing, that? So there's going to be those questions, and so it's not my job to make you feel comfortable in insanity.
So we're answering this in reverse, and I think we're answering this in reverse instinctively because I have a duty to protect my family.
Exactly.
Above
my duty
trying to correct your dysphoria.
My duty to my children is higher than my duty to my brothers.
Right. I'm going to protect my family. I'm going to educate my family. Yep. We're going to be talking about this. Yep. They're going to understand. It depends on their age, but if it's been forced into their consciousness to think about this, I will be addressing this with my children. Now, if I can maintain that separation from you, I just don't want them influenced by you. I don't want them thinking about, well, am I a boy or a girl like Uncle so-and-so? He became a girl. Am I this? I am not putting my children in that kind of position where they're thinking about this.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, so even if, I'm thinking through my children. My children have a very clear, strong foundation mindset of what a man and a woman is, what the different roles are, how that works.
Yep.
My children think feminism is hilarious because it's just, my daughter was asking me last night about some stuff, and we were talking through it, and even some of my recent Facebook stuff. And bro, I didn't even know sovereignty of God. But just they laugh. They think it's hilarious. But they are going to be far less. They're going to be more tempted to want to be liked, not want to offend, those kind of things. So there's a vulnerability there with my children that I'm not going to allow to be exploited. And same for my wife to some extent. I mean, my wife couldn't get sucked into something like that, but there's a less of a willingness to just offend publicly.
Yeah.
But just as far as with the sibling, if they're doing that, then I'm going to have just a very blunt conversation with them.
Yeah.
And love them. The issue is we always think that disagreeing with someone is hateful or something. That's the lie we bought into our modern culture. But I'd sit down and be like, hey, I don't know if this is a boy or girl. I mean, but it doesn't really matter. It'd be like, hey, I want to sit down and have a conversation with you. I want you to know, first of all, I love you. I'm your brother, and I'm always going to be your brother.
I hear when you say that a different voice than your public persona and my public. I have two voices, and even I have a third voice, if you will. So if I'm going to, I'm against transgenderism. I think this is a nightmare of a situation, and that people are being pressed and pushed into this. I think there are swirling currents in our culture that are forcing these individual decisions that are bigger. And I think we would do well to understand what those things are that are pushing our whole culture towards this, and why we're identifying and why we're pursuing these kind of things. So I think understanding that's helpful. So I'm against those things, and I'm going to be publicly against those things. And probably, this person may or may not have that public platform where they're able to communicate they're against that. But I have a voice that's public. And so anybody might look at that and say, man, he's really hard against us. You're right. I am. And I do that intentionally to protect my flock and my family and anybody around me so that they have answers to these questions. But then I have a second voice, and that is when I'm actually talking to somebody who's caught up in this kind of thing. And I heard that in the way you're approaching that. I'm still appalled and offended for the Lord, for those kind of things, that people would denigrate the image of God and how He's made them and that kind of stuff. But someone who's trapped in that, I need to talk to them. I need to undo this.
So here's the thing, and I hear what you're saying. I think you're right. For me, what I say online, I would say to my brother or to anyone I'm talking to. But online, you don't get facial, what do you call it?
Just facial expressions and
Expressions,
different, your
thank you.
mannerisms and
I
those kind of
can't
things.
Talk apparently, but facial expressions, your body posture,
Yeah.
your tone of voice. Like people think that when I say things like, the LGBTQ people are some of the worst people on earth, but they are. And it's like I would say that to anybody, including an LGBTQ person. But I'm not gonna say that. It's like I hate you and want you to die. No, I'm not saying it with my fist clenched.
But individually, we've met them at Pride events.
Yeah.
Where we go and they are reasonable, and we have that discussion. I think I've had that experience.
Oh, well, every one of them that will stop and talk and have a long conversation are shocked by our demeanor towards them.
Yeah.
Because I don't hate them.
Yeah.
I have no hatred in my heart for them at all.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they're destroying themselves and they're destroying others.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to.
And somebody needs to have the wherewithal to communicate that to them. I say this in a public sense, but when I'm talking individually, I'm going to start asking questions and so tell me how you got to where you're at. Why do you think this?
Yeah. Who touched you?
Yeah, exactly.
Who abused you?
When was there sexual molestation in your life?
Yeah. About 102% of gays were touched or messed with as children.
Yeah, I laugh because that's just it's the elephant in the room, and nobody wants to talk about the sexualization that's occurred. And how does the LGBT emphasis on T in this situation? How do they propagate themselves? By sexualizing younger
every homosexual I've ever talked to, I've never really talked to many lesbians, but every homosexual man I've ever talked to, like at gay pride events and stuff, if you talk to them long enough, they'll tell you about when they were abused.
100%.
And they don't connect the dots. Most of them don't. Some of them do.
Yeah.
Some of them are like, I'm like this because somebody messed with me.
Yeah. Now I'm going to hold out. Maybe there's somebody that's in, that hasn't happened to, but every conversation
either
I've
you
had,
were messed with or you watched so much porn that it messed your brain up.
That's another thing. Porn leads to sodomy.
It does. It
And-
100% does.
And leads to dysphoria and all this kind of stuff.
Yep.
So anyways, but I'm going to tell that person, look, you're my brother, you're my sister, I love you, but I can't affirm that because this is going against nature and it's going against God's revealed word about how you should be. And we all have to. Christ said, if any man would be my disciple, he must deny himself, take up his cross and following me. I have to deny myself in heterosexual ways. You've got to deny yourself in homosexual ways or transgender ways because God has designed you to follow him. And so you're going to repent of those things. You're going to turn from those things. And that's what I'm calling you to. I love you. I care for you. I care for you enough to tell you that this is what God's word says. This is what you must follow.
Yeah, we have we've talked about this for years, but we have this tendency in our culture to think that if I'm standing here saying, well, you need to be more like I am, or, basically that's how they view it. Yeah. It's like, you need to be like me, or you're wrong and I'm right.
Yeah.
We view that as pride. That's not pride. I am humbling myself before the word of God and proclaiming that it's true, though every man is a liar. And so I don't really care how you feel about this, it doesn't affect what I believe. And so, I don't care if you feel like you're a woman, I'm sorry, you're not a woman. You can't be a woman. It's impossible. You could spend $18 billion in surgeries and it wouldn't affect anything. You're not a woman. You're just a mutilated man at this point.
Yeah.
And so I would have a very direct, very gentle, very calm conversation with my brother or sister, whoever, whatever, and lay this out for them and share the gospel and be like, look, if you're going to show up to family events in a dress, if it's a man, then, we're not going to be there. And I love you and I don't want to cause separation with the family, but we're going to do our family event another time. Yeah. And you're not going to be invited.
Yeah.
Because we're just not doing that. It's like, because what if tomorrow you decide you're a frog?
So I would also add, my door is always open. I'm
Sure.
here for you. So
you've got my number.
More than likely, they know where you stand on these kind of things, and they're going to be the ones that would draw. So it's you pursuing them to say, "Hey, man, can we sit down and talk about this? What's been going on with you?"
Well, maybe, but every homo out there wants to be affirmed.
Yeah, they're
Like
desperate.
they're pushing you. They're showing up at the family reunion like that because they're trying to shift everybody to affirming them.
We're in Romans 1 territory. They want everybody to affirm them. They want everybody to be in hearty agreement with their position.
Yep.
Yep.
And so that's what I think this is part of masculinity, masculine speech, is that without hatred, without anger, without anything, you just sit down and you have a very blunt conversation about what is true.
If they will.
Yeah. And if they won't, they won't. But you, like you said, you leave the door open. You tell them, look, I'm always here. You've got my number. I will make time any time of the day, at 24/7. You call me.
Yeah.
And I'm here for you.
And know that I'm protecting my family from you.
Yeah.
Because what you're doing this and wanting to force this is a sexualization against my children. You're inviting my children to deny how God has designed them, and I will not allow that. Yeah. So you have access to me, but you do not have access to my family.
Exactly. And if you break down the side of the road, I'll be there.
Yeah.
I'm going to help you in any way I can, but I'm not going to do that to the detriment of my children.
Right.
I'm just not doing it. And so, that's the conversation that I would have. It would be very similar to if I had a brother living with a woman wanting us to call his partner his wife, and I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do that.
What's that book by Jared Moore on this topic?
It's a good question.
Yeah, there's a book that Jared Moore has written that I think would be helpful. It's on this issue. Let me look it up real quick.
Yeah, look it up.
Talk for a second.
Look it up.
I think we're almost done on this.
But topic. We live in an insane world. Like you think about what would have happened if somebody did this a couple hundred years ago and they just showed up and your brother all of a sudden was acting like a woman. Like everyone would know the right response to that.
Yeah.
It's like, you're insane. You've lost your mind. I don't know. We got rid of insane asylums and it hasn't, and now we're just letting people run around in public crazy.
Yeah. So hopefully this will pop up here. He wrote a biblical and historical appraisal of neither of these are.
He's written a bunch of books.
He's got it's on same-sex attraction. That was his dissertation that he submitted.
Okay.
And then he's made that into a book. But look up Jared Moore on same-sex attraction.
Yeah.
And that book will walk through this particular issue. It'll help you to talk about this if you haven't seen it. But anyways. Yeah. You got anything more on this topic?
Not really. Just,
It sucks, dude. I'm sorry that
whoever
you're
this
going
is.
through this, but you're not alone. And I'm glad that you've asked the question because other people are going through this very issue because this has been pushed by the swirling currents in our culture. And so more and more people are questioning their gender than ever. Yeah.
It's wild. But in forward thinking, whoever this is, thinking about your family going forward, you need to cultivate a home where this kind of thing is unthinkable.
Yeah, you do not have to accept them in order to love them. In fact, you're loving them more by rejecting false narratives.
Yes.
Just like he said, if they identified as a frog or a Sasquatch or something, you would confront that because you love them, you care for them. If they have this mental, and we need to see it that way. This is a mental disorder that's brought on by the cultural currents and
by embracing sin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Romans 1, we embrace sin to the point that God turns over our mind to a reprobate mind. We can't even think clearly.
Yeah.
And we all recognize, like with the furry thing, most people just laugh at that. But we should be laughing at men acting like women. It should just be like we can tell that it's shifted culturally. Because used to, if someone showed up as a man acting like a woman, we would treat that the same way now if someone's like, I'm a squirrel.
Yeah.
It's like,
I know this is my generation and not yours so much, but ever seen MASH, the television show MASH? So they had Klinger in there who dressed like a woman for most of these episodes because he was trying to get a discharge from the Army for being mentally impaired. So he
did the David thing.
That was our cultural thing. So I think that was like the 70s and 80s, early 80s when MASH was being done. I might be wrong about that, but that was the whole thing. So our culture shifted now that we don't go, oh, that's insane.
Yeah.
But if you go back 30, 40 years ago, it was insanity
It was a bit.
to think that you
Yeah.
were a woman when you're actually a man.
Well, of course.
All right. If you got other questions about this, you can write to us, snakeonthetable.com. We'd be happy to answer. And yeah, Lord bless you.
God bless.